Donna, don't you just hate when you're excited to learn something and they keep putting it off and putting it off? And
It's like those ads on like the social media, like this is why you're not
Yes.
losing weight,
Yeah.
or these are the 3 vegetables you should never eat.
Yes.
So you just want to know what it is,
Yeah.
and then before you know it, you're sucked into like a
Yeah.
2-hour video.
we're not doing that.
No.
We're going to get right to
right
it.
to the point here.
As we said in the opening, the star of the show is the 4-step method.
Yes.
It's not myself and Donna or the thousands of people that know this method. And that's what we want to share with you right away. You know, you have this card that you can download and print out. We really encourage you to do it. It will help you as you go through the course. It literally has the 4-step method. Quick reference guide to it. I still use it myself.
Me too. Yeah.
And what we want to do is we want to introduce you to the STAR, the 4-step method, and then we're going to go a little deeper into what each of the 4 steps means. And as you go through the course, we're basically going to practice this method over and over again and
Yes.
keep learning and deepening into it. And so we'll explain it a couple more times throughout the
yeah,
course.
repetition is the key here with this process.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start. There are 4 steps. The first step, and you hopefully very soon you'll know this very quickly. The first step is the situation.
Yes.
The second step is the symptoms that you're feeling because of the situation. The third step is, which we call is the gold, are the spots. It's what the course is named after. It's these phrases that you're going to learn to replace the fearful and critical negative thoughts you're having that are actually creating the symptoms. We're going to teach you more about that in a little bit. I didn't know that when I first started. I was having the anxiety.
No,
that was
neither
my
did I.
thoughts that were creating
Yes.
this. I had no idea.
Or my feelings. And when we say feelings, we don't mean your like true feelings, but we talk about the insecure feelings, the feelings of, oh, that person doesn't like me. Before we have any, research into the situations, we automatically come up with stories in our heads.
Absolutely. So the solution, since the problem are the thoughts, the solution is new thoughts. And that's what step 3 is. And the last step, step 4, is what we call success. And the best image I have of that is when my children are growing, you go to the doorposts and you mark how, because you don't always see that you're growing
Yes.
every day. And we're going to explain why each one of these steps is important. They're integrated. We tell through the course, we're going to use stories. One of them I talk about is I grew up, both of my grandfathers were bakers. I love to bake bread. And there's steps. You can't skip the step. Each step matters. And in each of these 4 steps, each one matters. They're like a beautiful choreography that comes together, and we're going to teach them to you. So again, the 4 steps, now after this we'll explain each one, is the situation that you're in that's causing the symptoms. Number 2 is identifying the symptoms. Step 3 are these spots where you're changing to new thoughts. And step 4 is the success. And it is simple, and as we'll often say in the course, don't confuse the simplicity with the power of it.
Absolutely. I look at it as a brain exercise, like people do crossword puzzles or Sudoku. This is just another exercise to keep us sharp on how we are feeling, our emotional intelligence. We're more aware of how we're thinking and how that can be projected not only like onto ourselves, but on then to others. So it's really becoming aware of how we react, how we think, and it's a retraining to when we get ourselves into those sticky, insecure situations.
And what's nice is it really does 2 things. You're using the term exercise. So exercise gets you stronger, you get better at dealing things. But the other magic of this is in the moment. How many times have we been caught up in an anxious moment and we pull this tool out, the 4-step method, and it like, we're going to teach you something later called the dimmer switch. It like turns it off. I've been in so many situations where I was feeling that anxiety and I want to get out of here. I used the simple method and it's like it turned it off. And now I'm functioning back in the moment. And that's what's so brilliant. It's going to train your brain to handle situations better, and it's going to help you in the moment. So let's deepen into our friend. It is like getting to know a friend, and you want to get to know them better. And so let's start with step 1, the situation.
Yes, this is
Talk
where,
a bit about that.
So normally when we want to talk about the situation, a lot of times we want to go into these really detailed descriptions. We want to get every little nuance in there. With this process, what starts working immediately, so we have something that happened, a situation.
Let's give a couple examples. It could be, again, that email you got that's upsetting to you. You could be getting started to do a big project and you're feeling like, how am I going to handle this? You could have gotten a call from a customer, then you reach out to someone internally to fix it, and the person's not getting back to you in your own company. It could be any of those situations.
It can be something as simple as you feel like you've been wronged in some way.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. So instead of going into all the long, I call them the adjectives, in this step one, the situation, we want to briefly and calmly describe it as plainly as you can. Because what happens there, the minute we start being a little bit more objective about the situation, automatically something that we feel is so big starts to get worked down immediately in that first step. That's what I've come to learn about this process. That first step, that situation of just saying, what is it? You do it with me all the time. I'll come to you with the situation. I've got like 3 stories, and you're like, can we narrow it down to 1?
Absolutely. So the first step is briefly describe. You can do this, and we're going to teach you more on how to do this. You can do this by yourself, in your mind. You can write it down. We're going to teach you how you can do it with someone else. We have these spotted circles. You learn to do it as a group. But the essence of it is, now, I can't tell how many times I'm driving in the car, I'm at a red light, and I look across from me, and I can see someone on the phone, and I know what they're doing. They're going like this, and they're telling a friend about, can you believe so-and-so? That works you up. We're going to teach you is what you don't realize is when you do that, you're actually turning what we call this dimmer switch up. You're creating anxiety for yourself.
And we think it feels good in the moment. But
I'm going
then
to tell them off.
We've just built it up and up and up. Yes.
So the first step is it's like, I think in terms of a beach filled with sand, we want to get away from the beach and we want to get down to the pebble, the one little grain. So we start to briefly describe the situation. So it may sound, instead of you can't believe, it's going to be, I got an email from a customer and they were upset that something wasn't delivered on time. Very simple. You start to compress it in your own mind, and something that's huge, we're starting step 1 to bring it down. Step 2, and again, we're going to go over this numerous times, but we want to keep it real simple for you. Step 2 is the symptoms. Now, when I first started doing this, I think, why do I want to describe the symptoms? They're all over me. Won't that just make it worse?
Right. Or, we're bringing it, more attention to it. So, yes.
But this is the opposite. This isn't like dwelling on like, oh my God, I'm having this. And the symptoms typically, for me, could be tightness in my throat. It could be a racing feeling in my chest. We also talk about the thought symptoms. Oh my God, will I lose my job? What's the customer going to think? They're going to call. So those are the thought symptoms. But rather than being in them, think about a blender making a smoothie. That's what anxiety and stress can feel. You're like in the blender. It's like the banana, the ice, it's all being swirled around. But we're doing, it's starting to get objective. It's almost like dissecting. You're going, okay, what am I actually experiencing now? Okay, I'm feeling some tightness in my throat. I'm feeling a little tightness in my chest. I'm having some of these negative thoughts. And when you started getting objective and almost like the books on our shelf, you start breaking them down, that's the second step in starting to work yourself down. Again, you break down the symptoms into components so that you work yourself down.
And a lot of times when we do this process with somebody else and we come into the symptoms, we think what we're feeling in those moments, it's just happening to us.
Right.
So we can say the tightness in the throat. Oh my God, my throat's closing. Whatever you put onto that. But then somebody will say, oh, I have that too. Then that starts to take the danger out of it and it doesn't work it up. You're like, oh, wait, he has that too. All right, this is average.
And we're going to teach you more about this whole idea of bringing danger to something and bringing all this extra energy, but in a very simple form. Just think about this idea. You're trying to work something down. Take the energy out of it. And this getting objective, these are my symptoms. And again, you can write them down. You can say them again. We're going to teach you more and more exactly how to do this. But this is just our first kind of go through to introduce you to our buddy. The third step are there's actually 2 parts to step 3, are the spots. These are these phrases. Now, we're going to learn a lot about in cognitive behavioral therapy, and that's really what the essence of this comes from, is the idea that it's the thoughts, these insecure, fear, or angry thoughts that trigger our symptoms. So a situation happens like the ones we described, and often we think it's the situation
Right.
that's causing our symptoms. What we start to learn, it's our reaction to those
Absolutely,
symptoms,
yes.
and what's triggered in those reactions are our thoughts.
Yes.
And so the idea is we got to replace those fear, insecure thoughts with constructive and positive thoughts.
Yes.
And that's what these spots are. If you flip your card over, you're going to become very friendly.
Yes.
This has
I call them mini mantras.
many mantras.
Yes.
I never tried to memorize these, thank God, because I'm terrible at memorizing, but I know them all.
Yeah.
Just
So
by
do I,
using
yeah.
them, you start to learn them. These become your best friend in the world, these phrases. And on the short list, where there are 40, there's over 200 of these. And we're going to teach you more about the logistics of the course, the booklet, how you can print these out by little. And Donna will teach you later on. Pick one or two to start with.
Yes.
Keep it simple for yourself. But these are the phrases we start to tell ourselves to replace the insecure thoughts. We're gonna just a little get into it a little
Yeah.
bit. We're each gonna pick one that we love, just to give you a sense of this. One of my favorites. It's so simple. Calm brings calm. So imagine you're getting in that worked up situation. You went through step one. You identified your symptoms, and now you start using these tools. We're going to teach you a lot about each one of these phrases are like a tool. We'll tell you more about that. But it's very simple. You can just repeat yourself. You feel yourself worked up, you keep saying, calm brings calm.
Yes.
Calm brings calm. Calm brings calm. And it's a two-parter. And again, we'll tell you more about this later. It's the phrase, but it's also the tone of your voice,
Yes.
the tapping of your finger, the jiggling of the leg, all that. As you start to literally calm yourself down, you're literally calming yourself
Yes.
down. Calm brings calm.
And again, it sounds so simple
Yes.
and maybe even a little like, really? That's all I
Yeah.
have. But in those moments, what you're doing is you're catching your reaction. And that's
Yes.
what this is about. Catching the reaction so we can, cut it off before it gets
Absolutely.
big. My spot that I
Yeah.
like is comfort is a want, not a need. We
Okay.
feel like we
Let's
need
repeat
to.
that one again.
Comfort is a want, not a need.
Yep.
So we feel like the minute we become uncomfortable, I always say that danger sign goes flashing off in the body.
Right, you start feeling
Yeah.
those symptoms, the tightness in the throat, the chest, the thoughts, and you're starting to feel uncomfortable.
Yes. So, and then we think something's really drastically wrong. What this teaches is, yes, life can get uncomfortable. We are uncomfortable, but we don't need to be comfortable to be productive.
Right.
We want to, but we don't need it. We can still function in discomfort.
Right, and we're going to teach you more about that spot and many more. So they really do become your friends, and we're going to teach you why we think of them as tools and how you can use them. The second part of step 3 is what you're going to learn a lot about. We call it self-endorsement.
Yes.
Endorsing yourself, and essentially it's giving yourself a pat on the back for all the positive things you do. And think about what each step, like think about baking the bread, each step is building on each other. And this idea of you can imagine if you're putting yourself down and you start to realize you're doing things to build the stress. Obviously we have to do things to do the opposite, to create more security, peace, and confidence in ourselves. And this is a muscle that we are generally as a culture very weak
Yes,
on.
we don't like to give ourselves credit.
Right,
We
but-
sort of feel we're in that no pain, no gain, or
Yes.
whatever. So here, what I like about the self-endorsement is often when our days start to go a little haywire, we automatically go into the negative thoughts of, oh, well, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. And we make this huge list of all these negative
We're going to
aspects.
teach you this idea called the laundry list. You'll learn about that.
What this teaches is to take yourself out of that and then look at all the things you did do and
Right.
give that the spotlight,
Absolutely.
give that the attention.
Absolutely. Remember, if the thoughts are creating the stress, thoughts can create the peace. And this self-endorsement is such an important habit to learn. Again, all this we'll teach you more about as we go on. Step 4 is success. Now, in the beginning, it's a little harder because you're just doing
Right.
it. But again, think about that mark on the door. Ooh, look, I grew a little bit. You start to identify, now that you're using the Spot It method, how am I reacting now versus how I would have reacted? And every time you do that, because a lot of times you feel like, I'm not getting any better.
Yes.
Which just actually, that thought itself, what you're going to learn, creates more stress and anxiety. But the opposite, when you go, wow, look, I made it. I made
Yeah.
progress. Look, I would have yelled before, and I didn't this time. Or you know what? I would have been up all night. I couldn't sleep, and this time I got myself back to sleep. Each time you acknowledge that success, you're actually again building those muscles in yourself that are going to give you more peace and security. So this is your first introduction to the 4-step method, and just to repeat them: situation, symptoms, spots, and this self-endorsement, and the success. Very soon you'll get to know these very, very easily. They'll become natural to you. And as we go through the videos, we're going to tell you more about just the logistics out of the course, how we think you can, some tips of how you can get the most out of it. As we said in the opening, we're grateful for you that you found your way here, because this is going to be a really, really important, wonderful part of your life.
And not only can it help you, but it can also help others around you. And this is where you see the real gold in this program.
Absolutely.